Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1034, March 10th, 2023. 66 degrees on this day on two occasions. 2012, when we had a really beautiful spring, early golf course openings. 2012 and 2016, and it was 17 below on this day in 1948.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Haidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
We have a guy named Miki Frost joining us today. That's a few minutes away yet. He's an activist and the founder of 8218, 8 to 18, meaning the age of kids. And he wrote an editorial in the Pioneer Press that was dated February 23rd. He is a black activist who, and he can absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, but as I interpret Mickey's writings, he's not buying the liberal BS, and he's a black guy. And I think he's buying into the idea of don't let them do you a favor.
Got it.
Now, it is the hockey tournament time.
Oh,
Always
I had
a fun
noticed.
time of year.
I had noticed.
And I have a test for you. You'll recall that on day one, a player for the Laverne team asked a gal in the stands, I believe his name is Brady Bork, and he carried his stick to the during the introductions, held up his stick, and on it he asked his gal to go to the prom. Her name is Sarah Stegenga.
Okay.
And apparently that went viral.
It did.
It really did.
And they looked happy, and she said yes. But there was a ray of hope to me. Now, normally I'm yelling at these kids to get off my lawn and don't screw it up and don't dye your hair.
To
Get the hell out of here.
where you wanted every team that had dyed hair, you wanted them kicked out of the
disqualify.
tournament.
Or if you can't wear a full mustache, don't do that pencil thing.
You come out with that
kind of creepy, yeah.
creepy-looking white hair, you're done. I don't even let you play in my tournament, so get off my lawn.
Gotcha.
So, but I found a ray of hope in that. Can anyone identify it? It has to do with the young fellow skating out to the blue line for introductions, and he held up the stick with, hey, Sarah, prom, ?
Yes.
Can anyone tell me what my ray of hope is?
Your ray of hope is that,
You know what? You're going to get it, aren't you?
I know I am. There's a couple things. They still have a prom where a guy asks a girl. That's convention.
That ain't it.
Okay.
But you're right.
And he put some thought into his response, and he was classy.
I'm unaware of his response.
No. I'm
She
sorry.
had to have
I'm
the
sorry.
response.
He was very creative in his request.
And what did he do correctly?
I don't know. He smiled and asked.
Well, he had a question mark.
Punctuated and had a capital letter Sarah.
You're missing the key grammatical part. You're missing the key.
Hey, Sarah.
You're
Sarah,
missing the key piece of. Yes.
He used quotation marks.
Wrong. You're missing the key.
I love games like this. Hey. He didn't spell it.
He spelled her name the way you like it.
Everything was spelled correctly.
He used a question mark.
H-A-Y.
Just tell us. Come on.
No, wait. This is a fun
No,
game.
I like playing the
He
game
used
too.
a key piece of punctuation that gave me great joy.
He used a comma.
He did.
He
Well, I
used a
said
comma.
that already.
You did not. You did not say
Yes,
comma.
I did. Back the tape up, Chris.
I
Back the
think somebody
tape up.
said question mark.
I think you said question mark.
I said, okay, whatever.
Hey, Sarah, comma. Prom, ? That's a ray of hope to me.
So
That's what it's come to.
That's what
this
it's
is what
come
I
to.
need for a ray of hope.
I know why. So unlike
And he capitalized prom. I'm not sure he had to, but it doesn't bother me.
So, Rook, you'll appreciate this. So, unlike every day around 1:40 when you're yelling at me for the correct punctuation,
Right.
sentence structure for the show description, you were happy that this kid didn't need your help.
Right.
Yeah. Ray of hope.
Hey, dummy.
Right.
Hey,
no
Sarah,
exclamation point.
comma, prom, ? Thank you, young man. Thank you, Brady Bork. Thank you. That's what my life's become, young man. My life has become so trodden upon that I find great joy in something as simple as you understanding that required a comma and you provided it. Thank you very much.
You know, the other thing, too, is it is a slice out of Americana.
Yeah, that was
That's
great.
cool. That's pretty
great.
cool.
It was great. And he didn't have the dyed hair either.
Did you hear about?
I don't think he did. I didn't look.
Did you hear about how short the honeymoon period was?
No.
She said no.
No, she said yes, which is great. But after the game in the locker room, the Minnesota State High School League executive came up to him and said, "You know what you've put in place here, a rule that nobody can write on their sticks and have messages."
Being serious?
I'm being totally serious.
You're kidding me.
After the game, he said, "You know,
They can dye their bleeping hair, but they can't write a little message on their stick?"
They're wondering." Well, the State High School League doesn't have any sense of humor
They
at all.
don't.
There's zero
Wait.
fun.
I know where you're going.
I
get
you know,
it.
they could start doing bad messages on sticks.
Yeah, I
that-
suppose.
Yeah, that's
You know,
where
but
I was going to
it's
go.
so
So-
bad because this was so innocent.
I have a question then about the State High School League. In high school football, you can't celebrate a goal, correct?
Of touchdown, you mean?
Excessively.
I'm sorry, yeah, a goal, a touchdown.
I'm unaware of that. I don't know.
Oh, my God. Rookie's right.
But you can celebrate a goal in hockey.
Oh, yeah. Because I
Well, they
think
do a whole dance and make a little love, get down tonight. Yeah.
Wow.
Get down tonight.
Rookie's right. Keith Ellison has just announced he's suing hockey stick manufacturers.
Oh my gosh. He's
Okay,
right
that was
on it.
good.
Thank
because they're
you.
too easy to write on.
That was good. All right.
Well, I do have a bit of a critical note, though.
By
How
that-
did she have the reply so ready at the game?
Maybe
Well,
I don't even care if it was
It wasn't
staged.
after. That was in another room. That wasn't right
That
away.
was later.
It was not right away where they put the camera on. She was
Okay.
in another room.
May I tell you, we've given this enough time. It was all about a comma.
But one more thing. It's kind of cool that it was outlawed because now he's the one and only.
one and only.
One and
Yeah.
only. And it was classy.
Yeah.
So I guess because you know that some kids would have some political message or 245-867. What does that mean? I don't know.
309.
What are we to make of this? Minneapolis's top racial equity official. So Minneapolis has a top equity,
So that means there's others.
apparently. Minnesota's top racial equity official misinformed the city council and the public when she said last month that the Bush Foundation had committed $3 million to the city's first Black Expo. All right. Not only had the foundation never committed a dime, the city never really asked, according to statements. The revelation raises questions around the planning of the I Am My Ancestors' Wildest Dream Expo, which drew far fewer attendees than initially hoped and required an influx of taxpayer money. In the end, the free Feb 25 event at the Minneapolis Convention Center, which praised by some who attended, cost taxpayers upwards of $500,000 and drew 3,700 people to register online. There's no official attendance number, but it's clearly 5 fewer than the 20,000 that Taisha Green, the city's lead organizer, forecasted weeks before. Green was hired a year ago to lead the city's race and equity efforts and serves as director of the newly formed Department of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Another meaningless job title.
I was going to say, how do you measure what she's done?
Her statements to the city council at an emergency meeting last month have proved to be untrue. But in the first paragraph, we use the word misinformed. No, she lied. But statements by the city acknowledges the inaccuracy while leaving other questions unanswered. I don't want to dwell on this. I don't really care. What's $500,000?
I care.
Well, you don't live in Minneapolis.
Oh, you're right. I don't care.
No, I really don't care.
But you asked at the outset, Joe, you asked, and I'll provide an answer. She's fired and she's prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Well, that was where I was going to go. There's not much to be made of this, by which I mean, will she be reprimanded? Will she face consequences. After all, she did cost this long-suffering taxpayer $500,000. Will she be demoted? Will she be in any way confronted? Will she in any way be asked to account or atone for her lie? And my prediction, sadly enough, is that absolutely not. Absolutely not. When you have job titles that don't mean anything and can't be judged for achievement, it stands to follow that you also can't be critical of them. Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason for these titles to exist. Therefore, what could you find that was wrong? And I don't think the city has anyone in any position in the city, whether it be St. Paul or Minneapolis or anywhere closer to the country's tallest buildings, that would take any action to confront this woman on her utter and miserable failure.
Vita says she plans to talk with city officials to get more information internally.
How about the whole office, not just her? If she's the lead, that means there's a whole office. That's a waste of money.
Well, it also sounds like this is an event. It almost sounds like that the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging actually had something to do. And what it was that they had to do was apparently fund this event. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can have this event. Sounds great, but how are you going to pay for it? Well, we're going to get I guess we're going to get some money from the Bush Foundation, and that's almost $3 million, in fact, only to have it learned that the Bush Foundation not only didn't offer any money, they were never asked to. So despite her having a job title that can't be measured for success, she still failed because apparently they had a task. Apparently they had an errand.
That's pretty tough to do.
Yeah. You had one job.
To fail something you aren't even measured in.
Right. One job.
And that's not the only thing she screwed up with. They asked for and received $200,000 of private donations, which the city made them give back because it goes against their rules.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, I predict nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen.
But, the outrage among people down there is, think of the good that money could have done elsewhere. You could go up to the north side and start paying some bills off, helping some people with some food, some education. I mean, $500,000? My God, think of the good that could have been done.
It's unclear what, if anything, will happen. Latricia Vita said she plans to talk with city officials to get more information internally, but also said the public, the Bush Foundation, and members of the black community deserve answers. She said when news of the recanted donations spread, a small drumbeat began among residents and business owners about other ways the money could have been spent. There could have been a backlash against the Bush Foundation because people might think they took their money back and don't support people of color, she said. Well, that's not true. The Bush Foundation was never asked. Right. $3 million, that would be a huge deal. To actually say the name of the foundation, that is bold when you don't have the receipts to back it up. Well, Vita is a hope. She is a GL hope on that city council. Always has been since she called that fruitcake out for his lies. What was his name? That screwball at
Cunningham.
Philippe
Cunningham.
Skinny Cunningham. What was his
Philippe.
name? Philippe Cunningham.
Opie Cunningham.
Opie
Cunningham. Opie Cunningham.
I'm unaware of what that is.
You were sleeping by that time. That was on.
The gal did talk to the Bush Foundation, but in order to get the money, you have to put together a proposal. She never did that.
No. Of course she didn't.
So it was never, ever under review at the Bush Foundation. They didn't have the paperwork.
Even though the job is meaningless, it's yet another person that's in over their head. Didn't deserve to have the job. And
$500,000.
And about 12 people went and said, man, this is fun, isn't it? This is neat. The other story on the cover of the Tribune today, which was fascinating, is the development of a solar farm on prime farmland which the agricultural community
That's got to get this.
understood was not to happen. And I have a note from Josh in Winnebago, Minnesota. He's 40 years old with a CI of 43, and he's a card-carrying member of the Garage Logic Town Council.
Love that.
And he writes, I hope you touch on the proposed solar farm in the Rochester area of southern Minnesota. These sorts of projects are the ones that frustrate those of us farthest from the city's tallest buildings. When these types of solar farms were originally proposed and sold to outstate Minnesota, there was an understanding that they would not be placed on lands used for production agriculture. Rather, they would be located on parcels which are less desirable for farming, poor soil, erodible, difficult access, etc. Now we see a proposal for 1,500 acres of good farmland to be consumed by ugly black panels, all to satisfy some urban regressive's renewable energy dream. Newsflash for everyone celebrating these projects. Farmland is not renewable. We can't make more of it. Farmland is already expensive, and if a supply of farmland is to be consumed by solar panels, well, I don't see the price going down. Farmland is also the most efficient means for growing food. Lab-grown production is extremely inefficient and cannot yield the same results as field-grown crops. Trading non-renewable farmland for renewable energy is not an even trade. Joe, to those regressives who listen to you but won't admit it, please put your solar panels on top of your tall buildings. Leave them off our farmland. And another thing, one Minnesota, my ass. The clash between urban and rural interest is real. We are not all in this together when one side constantly steamrolls the other. The urban regressives hold both the political and bureaucratic power to exert their will over those of us in rural areas, and we in the hinterlands have very little recourse. As always, thanks for keeping the podcast going. Keep fighting the good fight. I do not contribute to political parties, but I would gladly make a contribution to the GL party if it is ever formed. Good luck, Josh in Winnebago.
He's right.
He's right on the money.
He's right.
He's right on the money.
He's 100% right.
There's a little bit more to it. There is actually a state law that prohibits using farmland unless there's no feasible or prudent alternative. But even under that law, it would be limited to 100 acres. Now, here's where it gets complicated.
This is half the size of White Bear Lake.
Right. Here's where it gets complicated. The farmers have agreed to lease that land. Mm-hmm. So now it's a fight between locals fighting locals.
Yep. Who was the entity behind it? Who was the energy provider? Is this an XL project? Is this you have the story in front of you. I'll let you search it out.
Let me go back.
In other words, follow the money.
Right.
Who's getting the money from this supposed solar-powered energy?
Byron Solar.
Okay.
And Byron's a little town just west of Rochester.
All right.
The Minnesota Public Utilities Commission unanimously approved, despite the pushback from Dodge County and Canisteo Township. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're all going to die, and I'm going to die before I see the results of this, but I have an estate plan, and you can too, with Eckberg Lammers. They've been doing estate plans and meeting the legal needs of individuals, businesses for more than 70 years. And here's the deal. When you at last buy the farm, as we say, you don't want to leave behind a mess for your family. You want everything organized because that keeps it out of the courts. It minimizes your taxes and controls your wishes. They can solve a lot of problems. You might have family property that's in dispute. You snowbirds might have tax questions. There's a lot you need to consider with having your will prepared so you know what your children are going to be prepared to accept. You want this to run smoothly. And Eckberg Lammers runs it smoothly. They'll leave you with peace of mind, and you can't buy that. You cannot buy that. Make an appointment now with Eckberg Lammers. I don't care how old you are. The sooner you do this, the better. Talk to Eckberg Lammers at 651-439-2878. It's called estate planning. Visit Eckberg Lammers at eckberglammers.com.
This guy wears many hats, just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
Boy, I got to tell you, GLers love talking about Seafoam because it works really fast. It's easy to use. Dump it in and go. That's it. And the people that use Seafoam love to tell others about it. It's because it's so easy to use. The results are immediate. They're long-term. And we just consider it insurance that's proactive. I mean, it starts working right away. Seafoam cleans and lubricates critical engine parts so your engine runs better and lasts longer. Less visits to the mechanic with that side eye they give you and the grumbling. And you can get this stuff anywhere. I mean, you see it virtually everywhere. Auto parts stores, big retailers, small retailers. Looks like I'm got to talk slower. Knack hardware stores, farm stores, C-stores. I've even seen Seafoam in my local grocery store. That's how available it is. Both Joe and I lean on Seafoam almost every day. It's a wonderful product in a world of bad gas. It's GL's favorite, Seafoam.
We're going to be joined by Miki Frost. He founded the Reusse Center. It's called 8218, age 8 to 18. Get it? 8 numerals there. And I'm anxious to talk to Miki. He wrote a nice piece for the Pioneer Press on, it looks like it appeared February 18th after the death of the student at Harding. Is Miki joining us?
Yep.
Hello, Miki.
Hey, how you guys doing?
This is Joe you're talking to.
Joe, how you doing, brother?
Miki, you wrote a nice piece in the Pioneer Press on Feb 18, and it says, I am Miki Frost. I am many things, a community activist, the founder of the 8218 Reusse Centers, a son, a father, a husband, a person who has made mistakes, and a black man. And you wrote this regarding the stabbing at Harding. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I get the feeling, Miki, that you think these kids are not being punished the way they should be.
Well, in most cases, I believe that, punishment should probably be a little more strict than what a lot of these cases are ending up. Yes, I do believe that.
Well, tell us about the Reusse Center. What is that all about?
So the Reusse Center, first of all, thank you for having me on. And the Reusse Center, the 8218, actually is 8218. So that's
right.
what that stands for, ages 8 to 18. So I mentor kids from the ages of 8 to 18 with a series of different classes from community awareness, conflict resolution, depression and suicide prevention. I like to say some of the stuff that some of us had to learn the hard way, bumping our heads as kids.
Yep. We
try to teach it to these kids so they don't bump their heads as hard. And then another dynamic is we do trucing, where we go out and we find those individuals that are fighting and shooting and stuff at each other, and we try to get them to kind of stop and de-escalate those situations so that they don't end up, becoming what kind of seems like a norm in our communities now.
Miki, where'd you go? Are you from St. Paul?
From St. Paul, yep.
Where'd you go to high school?
Right here. I went to Highland. I went to Central. Ultimately was kicked out of both and ended up in Jefferson Alternatives, where I got my GED, started getting my life back together, went off to Minneapolis Community College, and from that point, kind of started working in the community, trying to fix what I had messed up.
Wait, let me just jump in there. I really appreciate the term "get my life back together" is a crutch that sometimes people use after they got in trouble. It sounds like you got in trouble, you got your life together, and then you backed it up with education. I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did you have a gang life, Miki?
Yeah, I did. My gang life was a little different than I would say the traditional, when you think about Crips or Bloods or any of that type of gang fashion or whatever. Mm-hmm. Mine was more or less, we had lost a friend when I was a kid to gun violence to another friend right here in St. Paul. So we had kind of formed a group. Back then it was called a posse. It wasn't called gang. It was called like a little posse. So we had, got a group of us from the community, and we had, all claimed a name or whatever. And from that point on, we kind of stuck together, but we didn't necessarily get into a lot of the fights and the shooting and that type of gang life. Ours was more like a group of kids that was kind of together that, just kind of, just try to represent the homie that we had lost due to gang violence to another one of the homies.
Well, what was the aspect of your life that you felt you needed to get back together?
Well, the fact that prior to, I would say probably the age of 13, I had grew up watching, and back in these days, it was, watching the Tony Dorsetts, watching the, the basketball Michael Jordans, and just watching, some of those individuals. And a lot of us younger kids back then wanted to be athletes. We wanted to be the next superstar in a sport or whatnot. But then came the crack cocaine era and also the gang era. And when that came into play, it was almost like it was just a fad to be on the block selling drugs or whatever. As kids, we didn't realize the magnitude of what it was doing to the community. It was more like, this was the end thing to do. Everybody was doing it. So, hey, join the crowd, do what everybody else was doing. And then rap gangster music came out literally around the same time. And it was like, well, let's emulate what we're seeing on television, pretty much what a lot of the kids are doing today. And it all comes from, what happened back then when gang music and drugs started to infest our communities and really kind of just down, where we were supposed to be heading.
You say you have walked the halls of the schools, meaning the schools in St. Paul, and your heart gets broken. What breaks your heart when you walk the halls of the schools?
Well, walking the halls, seeing that there's kids that, are just lost to music and to social media and, just the lack of having resources. And to see those kids in these hallways, just not going to school, and in a lot of cases doing drugs in the hallways, being disrespectful. And just to watch some of those kids do that, it's just heartbreaking to know that, the life that they could potentially live if they just understood the wrongs that they were doing now, and just to watch them kind of just fade into, this life that is definitely not going to end up good for them. It's heartbreaking.
How significant, obviously, to me, it's terribly significant, but what is your opinion of the significance of the lack of fathers in many of these homes?
Well, I believe that, overall, it was a systemic issue that started that. And as time went on, it only began to, continue to cripple, those men and those generations of men that could have been there, but for whatever reason or not, they was not there, and that only caused a ripple effect in the community and in the culture that ended up being detrimental. And I believe that a lack of fathers and the fact that a lot of these men should be in the homes and they're not, is something that we definitely don't need as a people.
Mickey, I'm glad you went there with Joe, because that's something I wanted to ask you about. I'm seeing your post from yesterday, I believe it's from yesterday, where you wrote the following on social media, if you don't mind me sharing. But it says, you got to be a different type of parent to go to the juvenile detention center, visit your kid, slide them some dope, leave, they find it on your kid, and cuss the jail out because they suspended your visits. Shaking my head. Part of the problem. That couldn't be more spot on. And what Joe said earlier is that there's such a lack of accountability. So I'm glad that there's people like you fighting the good fight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just the truth, though.
How old are you, Mickey?
I'm 50.
50. So you've been around. You've been around a long time. Are things worse now than you've ever seen them? Let's just stick to, say, inside the school halls. Are things worse now than you've ever seen them?
Definitely way worse. There was as a kid, I did school, and when I did school, it was you were hiding. You were trying to, not be seen by the principal or by, the teachers, so it was kind of like a cat and mouse thing. Now these kids just don't go to class. They don't care if they're seen, and it's not hide from the teachers. Blatantly telling the principal and the teachers that, hey, I don't want to go to class. It's that simple.
How do you get these kids to attend what you offer at the Reusse Center? How do you get them to become involved?
Most of the time it's because the parents are just, overwhelmed with what's going on with their kid. And the parent reaches out, whether they see me on social media, the news, or whatever, and they try to find a way to connect their kid with me. And so they bring them in, or they give me a call, and from there we go and we sit down with the kids and, offer them a safe space to be. I offer them homework help. I offer them the mentoring that they need, and just that overall feeling of, here is a man back in their life. Here is a father figure, or uncle, or something that they can gravitate toward moving forward. And that's how it works most of the time.
Where is it located?
So I have 2 locations right now. One is on Lexington and Selby in the Midway area of St. Paul. The second location is on Payne and Case to help those East Side kids over there.
How are you funded?
Right now, I have a federal grant through ARPIC grant right now that helps out. Right now, that's due to end soon. Prior to that, it was funded by myself, funded by community help, just funded by, people that were concerned and just say, it doesn't take a lot of money to save these kids, but if we can just, at these locations have the rent paid and, hey, the lights on, we can find some, some donated food and stuff like that to feed the kid, and then the rest comes from just, your heart.
Are these schools afraid to say no to these kids? Is that part of the problem?
I'm not going to say that they're afraid to say no to the kids. I think they're trying to appease everybody, and in appeasing everybody, that's never going to work. You can't think that you're going to make everybody happy, especially when you're trying to, change some norms. That's just not going to work, because you have some people that aren't living the lives of others, and they don't agree with some of the changes that some would try to initiate, and vice versa. So I think it's more that there's officials and there's people that are in places to be able to implement some changes that, they have 2 ears. In one ear, they're hearing one thing, and the other ear is hearing something else, and they're kind of stuck in the middle.
I have a question for you. Who is most qualified to assess and project success for these? It's not the school board. It's not legislators. Is it the parents? Is it the community? Who can best assess what's going on accurately and look for a solution without this gobbledygook political speak? You might have to hear some harsh words, but harsh words mean there's a future for some of these kids.
To me, it has to be the community. It has to be those boots on the ground organizations that are really out here, that see and are part of this everyday problem that takes place, here. It's like too many times that these, whether they're the politicians or, whether they're people that, sit on certain boards, a lot of if we talk about the school board, a lot of the people that sit on the school board don't have a kid in the St. Paul. If we're talking about St. Paul public schools, they don't even have a kid in St. Paul public schools. But you're on this board making decisions for St. Paul public schools when you're basing your decisions off of what you think. You don't have a kid that, is watching the blood come out of another kid in the hallway of a Harding. You don't have that, so it's easy for you to say what you think may need to take place to make these schools better, but it'll be different if you actually lived it. Same thing applies to in the community when it comes to some of the things that need to change. There's so many people that are legislators or part of this political chain that do not live where there's sirens going off every night as they try to go to sleep. They don't live where they're seeing yellow tape or they're seeing teddy bears and stuff at almost every corner when you ride down the street with, shows where someone was murdered or someone lost their life right there. And they don't see that. So that's one of the problems. But they're the ones that make decisions for, the people that are living those lives.
Miki, whatever success you intend to achieve with the Reusse Centers, it would be my opinion you'll have to do it without any political involvement, without any school involvement, and without any school board involvement, because they're all incompetent. They're chasing the wrong direction. You're going to have to do this on your own.
I don't disagree to most of that. I believe that I wouldn't say that they're incompetent. What I would say, though, is that they are in positions where their hands are tied often enough to where they can't, do some of the things that they know deep down inside they need to do, in fear of, certain consequences or backlash they may catch, from other entities or co-workers or just people in general. And I think that's probably what a lot of the problem is.
Miki, Joe has a theory that we've been discussing for a couple of years. And you know what, Joe, instead of me trying to explain your theory, explain it to Miki, your less than theory.
Miki, when I see a lack of accountability from black kids, when I see a lack of discipline given to them, when I see their disrespect excused, to me, you are making that child less than. You are saying to that child, we don't expect much from you. Therefore, we're going to look the other way on your misbehavior because you're not qualified to behave. And I think it's a dreadful, insidious sin made by liberals to make black children less than. I expect as much from any black kid in school as I would from any other kid.
And then in turn, Joe, that sets that kid up for a life of success.
By treating him like every other kid, you set him up for a life of success. I want these kids to behave in school, Miki. I don't think they should be excused for bad behavior.
They should. I mean, just plain out blatant, they should not, and it's wrong. But I want to take it a step further. It should not only be on the kid, but we have to start involving some of the parents as well.
Yes, yes, sir.
We have to be able to say, you know what, this kid is acting out, continues to act out, and if as a parent you're not, going to address this issue, then maybe there should be some consequences headed, in your direction. And at the same time, of course, we can have, parents that, obviously they have to compete with those elements that are bringing those kids to those places of those behaviors. But if you're not looking to put your kid in program or in those things that could help, then maybe, that consequence shouldn't just be on the kid. And that's how I believe it should work. Because,
absolutely.
If I understand that as a parent, hey, you can't control your kid to a certain degree, especially when a kid gets a certain age and just wants to act out and do what they do. But if you are actively trying as a parent to get that kid involved in some things that, hey, if you tried as a parent and the kid ditched that or just didn't go or whatever, well, at least there's a record of you are trying as a parent. And to me, there's not enough parents in the black culture that have kids that are going through some of these issues that are really trying hard to get those. And I'm not saying every single parent, but I'm saying there's a lot that are trying to get those spaces and those places and their kids involved with them. But then there's an awful lot that just talk the talk, but really don't walk the walk when it comes to getting that necessary help for your kid. And to me, that has to change. That's just as valuable as trying to get the kid to see some things. The parent needs to also.
Miki, I got to ask you something because I just have to know. When a car gets stolen, is it the fault of the car or the thief?
It's definitely not the car.
Man, you're on the right track.
Thank God, Miki.
Miki, you're an all right guy, man. You're pretty cool.
Miki, I hope maybe it even sounds like more parents should become aware of the 8 to 18 Truth Centers and get their kids over there for help.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
All right.
Hey, Miki, go ahead and give out your website. If somebody were gracious enough to donate or want to help you out, go ahead and give out your website.
The website is www.8218truthcenter.org. You can go there. And I tell people all the time, volunteering and, whatever God tells you to do or your higher power tells you to do with your heart, then that's a donation to me. It's not monetary all the time and stuff. Of course, we need help with food and different stuff for these kids. So bring food. It's not a thing where, hey, money needs to be sent to us. You do what your heart tells you to do in whatever, fashion that is for you.
All right.
We'll make it work.
That being said, what dire need supplies do you have? What do these kids need supplies, or clothing wise?
Right now, today, and next week, what do we need?
Food for these kids. These kids love to eat. A lot of the kids, we got to be honest, they go hungry every day. They don't have a lot of the food, and it's too bad that those people that are in position to feed them some lunches are arguing about and fighting like kids when it comes to being able to give out a free lunch for a kid. To me, it's nonsense. I wouldn't care if you was a millionaire and you could afford the lunch. Does that mean that you don't deserve a break too? Does that mean that just because you have made it in life does that mean I can't buy your kid a lunch one day? Or, that doesn't make sense. And, so there's some things that I just think that, we need to fix. And when it comes to the legislative field, I just think that, they're no different in a sense than some of these kids that's running around here that's arguing and fighting over things that we should be able to come together and fix. And sometimes take a back seat to somebody else's pain and problems. And I think that's something that collectively we should do, despite if you're on the right or the left. It doesn't matter. Kids are dying and neighborhoods need help. And if it's not your neighborhood, what's wrong with sitting back one day saying, you know what, I'm cool over here. We're good over here, but let me sit back and give somebody else something for a change. Even if I really don't agree with it, don't want it. Well, if it can help, and let's see,
All right. Miki, best of luck to you. And write some more for the newspaper. I think that would be helpful.
Oh, that's the plan.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Contact the newspaper for me. Contact them and tell them.
I can do that.
If he knew where they were.
He works for them, so you've got an in.
I'll spread the word for you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Well, hey, let's keep it going. I appreciate you guys so much. And hey, my motto and my saying every day is another day, another chance.
All right, thank you, sir.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Miki.
Thanks. Bye.
I really dig Miki. You know why? He does websites like I do. He gives you the W's.
Yes, he did.
He gives you the W's.
He did. He must be a listener.
He must be a listener. All right, thank you. We'll take a short time out here,
But
Chris.
first, I'm going to let you know about our friends at Hofferman Water while Joe transitions to watch the hockey game. Hofferman
I'm
Water.
only doing that during a
It's on a
commercial.
break.
If you are looking to make the switch, then go with the absolute best. That's Hofferman and Connecticut. I did it a couple of years ago. You should too. The quality of my water vastly improved when we had that Connecticut system installed. And I'm telling you, once you make the switch, you will never go back. Sales, service, and rental options for Connecticut is available for you from Hofferman. That includes water softeners, iron, rust, and odor filtration systems, and of course, top-of-the-line drinking water systems. So do this. Write this phone number down, 952-894-4040. That's 952-894-4040. Or better than that, just go to their website. You can see every system that they have to offer online at their website, which is HoffermanWater.com. Get in touch with them today. They'll make the switch, and they're the best in the business. Hofferman Water has been proudly serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years. Please tell them you heard about them here on the Garage Logic Podcast.
Truth, justice, and the Souchere.
Tri-State Bobcat has a big spring sale right now on Toro Power Clear single-stage snowblowers and PowerMax two-stage snowblowers. And Tri-State, they're offering 2 models here. And I promise you, no matter which model you go home with, you're going to look forward to the next snowfall. These Toro snowblowers are simply amazing. If you're thinking about summer, you are in luck. Toro zero-turn mowers will cut your time spent mowing. Do you spend 3 hours? If you get a Toro zero-turn, it's going to be 2 hours. It's that cool, making tedious jobs fun. And Tri-State Bobcat has the best pricing right now on select previous model years. Time Cutter and Titan zero-turn mowers ranging from 42-inch to 60-inch with a 10 to 20% pricing drop under the promo. There's a big bunch of snowblowers, a big bunch of carryover zero-turns. Get on the horn, call any Tri-State Bobcat, tell them you're a GLer and you need to be set up. Mankey's Outdoor Power Equipment in Owatonna, now part of the Tri-State family, so everything's available there. Tri-State Bobcat locations in town, they are Burnsville, Little Canada, and Hudson. And you can see everything on the web, tristatebobcat.com.
We have the gift that keeps on giving. Well, her name is Kamala Harris. And apparently she's now very worried about students. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, sir. Mostly just young people and their condition.
Having some climate problems. She thinks they have some angst that might be brought about by their fears of climate danger.
I mean, one of the young leaders was talking to me about climate mental health. I said, tell me what's going on with your peers. Climate mental health. And she talked, I said, I think I understand that, but unpack it for me. And she talked about how her peers are thinking about it. One example is, whether when they're ready, could they start a family? Worried about what that would mean. Okay. And the stress of it. They were talking about it in terms of their peers trying to figure out, they're going to have to get a job and they're going to have to make a living, but what can they do and how can they adapt the education that they're having now to their activism?
How is that going to affect
This is a first world problem.
their activism?
We're not going to be here.
They instill the fear, and then they
look for a reason of what's to blame.
Then they remind you better get a job to continue to pay us.
Right. Yeah, don't forget that. That's first and foremost.
We're going to be struck by an asteroid on Valentine's Day, 2046.
All right.
That will not be a happy Valentine's Day.
What is that, 23 years from now?
23
years from now. We won't be here.
No.
Because we've ruined the Earth.
Are we gone? We're gone before 40, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this is we know the size of it, too. It's the size of an Olympic swimming pool or 5,200 boxes of full-size paper clips. You can come up with anything you want.
That's usually one I use.
Right. This one's the size of a swimming pool, an Olympic swimming pool.
Okay, not Reusse's little swimming pool.
No. This is 2023 DW. And she's coming on board here, and it's a long way from Earth right now, 17 billion kilometers. So I just thought I'd tell you that because Kamala reminded me that we have a lot of climate angst. Kids, you better start worrying about this. It's the size of an Olympic swimming pool.
We don't know how big that is.
Isn't life on Earth balancing on a thread the way it is in respect to what's happening out in the universe? I mean, just one wrong thing, it could shut the whole world down.
The vice president was speaking at the Aspen Ideas Climate something or other down in Florida, which the governor and lieutenant governor are currently at.
They're at that freeloading thing, too, huh?
And Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan issued the following. Governor Tim Walz and I ran for office with a promise to take action on climate change. And alongside our partners in the legislature, we've laid the groundwork to get to 100% clean, carbon-free electricity by 2040. When we come together, we deliver for Minnesota.
I just can't believe how many people buy this nonsense. It's just, what happened to critical thinking? What happened to analysis? What happened to saying, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right here. Let me digest this. Or as Kamala would say, let's unpack that.
Very, very sinister laugh.
Jesus, Joe.
God, she's miserable. Oh, jeez. Just so unlikable.
We like proof. Just give us a little proof.
Oh, man.
It's just mad speculation.
We're not going to be here, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Well, you're a climate denier.
Chief KB writes, he's got a good point. The AG and the mayors and the governor are going after the wrong people. Since they won't or can't go after the thieves, consider this. The window companies and car manufacturers are doing nothing illegal in terms of consumer protection. However, what TikTok has done needs a look. These TikTok Kia challenges that Mr. Ellison and some media have referenced cannot be ethical, nor in the inherent interest of protecting consumers. If social media put out instructions on how to kill someone or rob a bank or hack a public school's database, that would be illegal. TikTok's How to Steal a Hyundai video should be Ellison's target. Those social media companies should be held accountable. Thanks, Chief KB on the north bank of the Crow Ring. He's right. Why? That's yelling fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah,
Why do you get to have a social media post that tells you how to steal a car? Why isn't Ellison going after them?
Well, it doesn't fit the narrative, Joe.
I mean, they make it sound like Kia and Hyundai purposely just built cars to be stolen. And they Hyundai and Kia did no such thing. They did no such thing.
With his action, there are people that believe that that's the case, what you just said. That's why they built the cars that way, was to intentionally be stolen.
Aren't you sick of idiocy?
Yes.
Idiocracy.
Just in this room.
Idiocracy?
I can say it. Idiocracy.
And, speaking of the climate.
You guys should have watched that movie.
What
I have
site
watched
is this?
it.
What's DNYUZ as a site? DNYUZ.
DNYUZ.
They have a story saying that out-of-towners are flocking to Duluth, Minnesota because it's climate-proof.
The latest breaking news, U.S. and world politics.
Just another site, in other words.
Yes, it is. Yes.
They reference the surfing now. We've seen people surfing on Lake Superior. We have a story here of John Jenkins, 38 years old. He's a child of Orange County, California. But a decade ago, looking to escape overpopulation and intensifying wildfires, he took a chance and settled in Duluth. And he's found it to be his home. Hundreds of like-minded new residents have joined him, coming from California, Colorado, and New Mexico, and changing the face of the erstwhile manufacturing town on the western edge of Lake Superior.
Hippie town, Joe.
Dubbed climate-proof Duluth. In 29, I met the guy, though, that was begging for money on the corner, and he said, I came down from Duluth.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And he said, better climate.
Hey-yo.
It was dubbed climate-proof Duluth in 2019 by Jesse Keenan, a Tulane University professor who was lecturing at Harvard at the time. Duluth has been hailed for its ample supply of fresh water, as well as its location, buffeted from sea level rise in the upper Midwest and temperatures which run mild in the summer and colder than cold in the winter. And they agree too that Duluth has its own air.
Yeah.
It doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go
else.
anywhere. It stays right there.
The majority of the population growth in the U.S. remains in the Sun Belt, where homes have traditionally been more affordable, although they're seeing a change in that because people are moving to Duluth because of climate change. And Duluth is now coming to terms with its status as a refuge. Okay. Are you kidding me?
Let's go to Duluth.
It's a good place to go if you have allergies. For some reason, they're not as bad as up there.
It's the salt water.
In the second half of the 20th century, Duluth's population fell, shrinking from about 84,000 to about 84,000 in 2008 from nearly 107,000 in 1960. Well, it did once have a massive steel and cement infrastructure and complex, but those closed. By the early 1980s, the situation in Duluth was so grim that a billboard popped up on the highway saying, will the last one leaving Duluth please turn out the light? But that's all changing now because people are moving to, it's a long story. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Oh.
Because people are considering Duluth to be a refuge from from climate crisis. And so people are going to Duluth, where by their very presence and overpopulation will result, I would imagine, in a climate crisis.
Right.
Because people are evil and they're the ones ruining the earth.
Somebody should warn those hippies about the black flies up there.
Oh, yeah.
They're the
big.
size of Black Hawk helicopters.
Oh, they're
they are
monsters.
angry. They'll take a chunk out of the side of your face.
Right. It's just amazing. Let me just see something here real quick. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
look that up. You still getting chastised from the other side of the world?
Hell yes. Oh, yeah. That's all right. Where was I? Oh, Duluth is a climate refuge. And might as well stay with that. I have a fellow, another GLer, who did his homework.
Yep.
Did you want something?
No, I'm good.
Hail the Flashlight King.
Hell
This
you!
is David
Right
writing
on.
this.
Here we go.
Since you were the one last week to notify me of the Public Utilities Commission hearing regarding the proposal to allow XL Energy Center to force all metered customers to bear the cost of building charging stations, I thought I would pass on my comments that I shared with them. It is worth noting that written comments are being accepted until April 5th, and we should regularly check to see what hearings are upcoming so that we can submit written comment. My understanding is that by law, the members of the various commissions and committees are required to review all written comments as if they were shared verbally at the meeting.
Oh.
Who knows, perhaps we can move the needle if a large number of GLers makes a nuisance of themselves by submitting lengthy comments regularly. You may also like to know that for the period that I could listen, most of the comments were clear, cogent defenses of common sense. Overwhelmingly, people don't want to pay for the charging stations, even if they have drunk the Kool-Aid, because, as it was pointed out several times, XL Energy will be muscling out other EV charging providers with this move, creating a monopoly. I had no idea how many different EV charging companies that were building networks in Minnesota until they all abruptly stopped when XL filed this petition. Evidently, there are still entrepreneurs looking to provide services even when we might find those services to be frivolous. My comment to the Public Utilities Commission follows. The proposal tonight deals, of course, primarily with the question of a particular issue of the implementation of the current state administration's energy policy. Because this is the overall objective, I'll stick primarily to a response to that plan. However, there are a few foundational items that must be addressed. First, it is clear these policies are based on concerns regarding climate change. It is essential to note that climate change is a semantically overloaded term. When that phrase is used, it does not mean that just the climate is changing. It means, 1, the climate is changing. 2, that change is caused overwhelmingly by human activity. 3, that change is catastrophic. 4, preventive measures are the only ones that are worth pursuing. Adaptive measures aren't worth the pursuit. And 5, only government can address the changing climate. The purpose of this meeting isn't to argue about these, though it is worth noting that a few realities exist repudiating these ideas. Number 1, according to the most recent IPCC report, no evidence exists that there is an existential threat posed by climate change, which means that point 3 is absurd, that climate change is catastrophic. In reality, the increase of carbon in the atmosphere has led to fewer climate-related deaths, and it is worth noting that the higher carbon in the atmosphere results in more efficient transpiration within plants, which has led to massive global greening. The most notable examples of this are the Sahel region of Africa, turning over 100,000 square miles of desert into grassland. Additionally, farmers have noted substantial yield increases per acre in our own fields in recent decades, which has been tied to the same phenomena. 2, the first nation to meet the Paris Climate Agreement goals for carbon emissions was the U.S., after President Trump removed the U.S. from the agreement, which means that point 5 isn't true. Point 5 was only the government can do it. 3, the IPCC has noted in the past that most of the warming that occurred after 1850 occurred in the first 100 years, which is prior to most of the carbon increase in the atmosphere, and that almost no warming occurred after 1960. This warming also coincides with what is generally accepted to be the end of the last mini ice age, so of course the temperature would have increased. Thus, point 2 is absurd. Point 2 is that change is caused overwhelmingly by human activity. The mission of the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, according to the mission and culture page of your website, is to create and maintain a regulatory environment that ensures safe, adequate, and efficient utility services at fair, reasonable rates. This plan is contrary to that mission entirely. It is not fair to make non-users of these charging units pay for them. There is no reasonable justification for having non-users be forced to pay for charging stations if the charging stations are viable. It is further not reasonable to force anybody to pay for these charging stations if they are not economically viable. Our electrical generation capacity is in no way adequate for the move to electric vehicles without either fossil fuels or nuclear power expansion. And you know this. So-called green technologies are not able to provide reliable energy during inclement weather. Tell me how we're supposed to have green energy when the solar panels are covered in several inches of snow, or when the wind blows too hard to allow the wind turbines to safely operate. Further, why is now a good time to pass these costs on? As consumers deal with levels of inflation not seen for 40 years, why would now be the time to force the average XL customer, who is not actually a consumer of these charging stations, to shoulder another cost? We're seeing the clear signs of impending economic stagnation, which means that this is obviously not the time to force this cost upon every single metered customer. I am firmly opposed to this petition and any petition to force Minnesotans to bear the cost of this boondoggle, which can only benefit the few. Thank you, Mr. G. Eller David. G. Ellers are going to work.
Amen to that, brother.
G. Ellers are doing the Lord's work.
That was amazing, concise, factual, and absolutely wonderful. What did he say at the very, very beginning? They have to read or acknowledge all written submissions? What was that?
It is worth noting that written comments are being accepted until April 5, and we should regularly check to see what hearings are upcoming so that we could submit written comment. My understanding is that by law, the members of the various commissions and committees are required to review all written comments as if they were shared verbally at the meeting.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope they do that. I hope they're
going to do it.
True to their word and do acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It ought to help with your heating.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The thing is, if you're a smart guy, what you're going to do is you're going to be ready for winter. And if you're really smart, you're going to call welterheating.com. That's welterheating.com. Now, when you go there, you're going to find out 100 years of experience. They've got 100 years of experience. Furnaces, air conditioning, all sorts of great stuff. But you're also going to find out the fact that they're not a fly-by-night. They don't have a funny jingle. They're going to get the work done for you. Give them a call. Go old school, 612-825-6867 for heating, cooling, air purification. Find out the areas. And there's a really neat blog. There's a blog that Rick Welter follows up on. If you have questions, he might already answer your question. So there is a wealth of information on their website, welterheating.com. Air condition or heat your shelter with Ray and Welter. Online at welterheating.com, 612-825-6867. Tell them Brooke sent you.
Has the air gone out of the balloon with Kaprasov?
Well, if he misses a month, he's only been a part of 41% of the Wild's goals.
That's right.
So, they might have to, as conservatively as they've been playing, they might have to tighten her up even a little more. They're not scoring goals anyway without him. It's you never know. Well, maybe the goalies will stay hotter than hell and they'll steal a few. But the longer it is, the worse, obviously. So,
I wonder what's wrong with them.
a hamstring that's pretty hammy, I was told. They haven't revealed that it's a lower body, but it's not a knee, so that's good.
He did the splits, and it must have been just too much, huh?
He tore I don't know if he tore it, but let's hope he's a faster healer than Carl Anthony Towns.
I think you Ruskies are a little tougher, aren't they?
Yeah, hockey players have a little different attitude about playing, but I was told it was a pretty good hamstring injury, and they said 3 or 4 weeks. So.
Are we supposed to go after this guy?
Yeah, where was Reeves when we needed him? And are we going to play these pigs again?
Yeah.
I didn't see it as that dirty of a check, to tell you the truth.
Didn't?
I didn't.
It wasn't a check. It was a pounce.
Well, that big oaf fell on him.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it was kind of it wasn't a run down the ice and board the guy, but
right.
It was too bad that he was such a large individual that landed on him too. So that's not good, to say the least. It'll be interesting to see how the boys are in the room for this one, right? If they're fired up.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't wear their gay pride jerseys because of Kaprizov and the rest of the Russians. So now we'll see if they can play hockey without the guy, without one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league. So.
That gay pride thing worth discussing? I'm unclear as to what happened. The commies said, no, that's outlawed in our country. We can't wear the jerseys.
They're worried about mom and dad.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
They, not me. Mine are long since dead. But I think a lot of people are, yes.
Okay.
And that was Russians around the now one of them, the guy in Philadelphia said that it's against his religion or something. He's a Reusse too, or some kind of a
Orthodox something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
He said it's against his religion, but it's go out there, skate around in the morning, in the warm up jerseys, and then if you want to, and if not, but you're getting. It's hockey, man. We play hockey in our regular jerseys or our North Stars jerseys, right? 30 years ago today, by the way, Norm announced he was moving to.
Boo!
That SOB.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Pat, you mentioned Carl Anthony Towns. Will you or somebody do an in-depth piece laying it out for the public what a complete fraud this guy is? Somebody's got to tell us what's going on.
Yes, but if they don't tell you what's going on, what are you going to do? What are you going to report? They're not telling you anything.
Well, it would require diligence. It would require a reporter to beat the bushes.
Require what? Kidnap Tim Connolly and put him in a chair and beat him like they do on those movies?
Make him sweat it out.
I don't know. Follow him around and talk to the barista at the coffee shop where he just got caught. Do something. What's going on here? The guy's making $12 trillion and he won't play.
Yes, he's got a very serious calf strain, and he's getting closer. For a month, he's been getting closer, but
he's one day closer.
Yeah.
Not close enough. Joe, the greatest change in sports is basically the team's dedication to covering up information.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's it all started with hockey.
Jock, I give you too much information.
Upper body and lower body. Okay. I'm happy to report right here on Joe Souchere podcast, Garage Logic. I think we are the first one to report that it's a hamstring. Yeah. So I found that out. Okay, that's about all I can do. Carl Anthony Towns, I don't. We cannot basically question his heritage and everything else.
Well, I can.
Why he's not playing?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll turn out that I don't know what it is. But yes, it's disgusting, and it's disgusting that they won't tell you anything about it, and it's really disgusting that people don't seem to care.
Nope.
He's not playing. He'll come back and play someday, and he'll get a big roaring ovation from the crowd. They should all boo the crap out of him.
He's missed 3.5 months.
3.5 months. He was going to miss 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unbelievable. Yeah, November 28th was his last day.
Mm-hmm.
So we got your December, then we got your January, then we got your February, and now it's March. So yeah, 3.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they have whole teams of people trying to keep you from finding out what's going on now. So it's a lot tougher than it used to be.
The Gophers are done, huh?
Yeah, the dream died. The dream died after they won that one tournament game. I was having fun with the idea. Boy, if they go right through this tournament, that guy out in California is sure going to feel foolish if they end up going to the NCAA tournament. But we came up a little short. So what the final record, I think, is 9 what was it, Reavers? 9-23.
I think it was 8-23. I believe it was 8-23.
8-23. Yeah, not a good second year. Ben Johnson, after seeing what happened to Lindsey Whalen, should know that he now is on double secret probation. He will have the same fate as her if he has another lousy year next year. So,
did she want to return?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she got fired.
Well, I know that.
She got fired, and then she got told on. Here's another behind-the-scenes info I'll give you. She got, they were going to announce. They put out the release that it was a mutual decision, right? And Lindsay broke down on the way to the press conference, so she didn't go through with it. But then Lindsay went and told her players the truth, that she had gotten fired that morning. And apparently the athletic director was upset that she told the truth to her players. So anyway.
Well, what's she supposed to do?
Yeah.
She's supposed to keep up the big lie, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, I'm officially then I didn't know that. I'm officially on record. Mark Coyle's a weenie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he didn't. The idea that he'd been having conversations all winter about this and stuff like that. She was told on Thursday morning that she was done. So I don't even know if he asked her to come in or if he told her, but she was told Thursday morning she was fired, and she was surprised.
Meanwhile, your Mahatmadi Zephyrs just upset Hermantown in the first game of the Class A semifinal.
I'm covering the A game tomorrow, and I don't have to watch Hermantown. Good. Way to go, Joe. That's damn near your alma mater.
I had 3 teams in the tourney, and I got 2 still alive.
Yep.
Well, your Hills gave her a good effort
Hills
yesterday.
gave a nice effort against the Tonkas. Cretin really surprised people beating Maple Grove, and now my Zephyrs have won.
Your Zephyrs will be playing Mighty War Road in all likelihood tomorrow. War Road will be going for the doubleheader. They already won the girls. And
now, who's the next game? War Road and who?
Well, I was just going to say, this game, though, does remind us of the time when we were the home of sports talk in the Twin Cities, 1500 ESPN, and Rookie gave us the Matamidi roster from about 4 years previous.
It was a different roster.
Yeah, I got this year's roster if you need it. I did my homework.
Speaking of dead-on accuracy, Reusse, I just broke the news on Twitter about Kaprizov's injuries.
Nice.
I said sources say Kaprizov's injury is a hamstring.
Hamstring. Oh, get it out there.
Yeah.
Scooped by the MSP traffic guy.
Yeah,
How do you like that?
Just retweeted by the Garage Logic account.
Hey, Pat, Louie must love the gig because he's in there from 10 in the morning till midnight.
He doesn't do the A games, though, does he?
No, I don't know.
Mark Parrish is doing the
I
A
assume
games.
he did. I'm sorry.
I thought he did the double A games.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Parrish, man. He needs a haircut.
Yeah, well, what do
He's
you
a happy fellow, though. I like his enthusiasm.
Oh, he's a great guy. Did he get teeth for the TV cameras, though, the last time I saw him?
He got a grill.
Teeth.
He got a grill.
He's got teeth.
He got the white man's hockey grill.
Yeah.
It's just white
Well,
teeth.
this was only a week ago. I saw him, and he was missing teeth. It didn't look like he's ready for TV, but maybe he got some. Maybe he got some. He was one of the first great St. Cloud players when he went up there, and they didn't have much of a reputation, and he was one on the real one of their first real competitive teams. He was a mean little SOB. I'll tell you that. He might hit you with a stick in the ribs when nobody was looking.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that. You got to think hockey players have extra teeth laying around the way you guys have cheaters laying around.
That's a good point.
In the car, in the desk.
Yeah.
Hey, grab my teeth.
Hey,
You're in the cup holder.
Rookie, you're a big buddy of Bobby Hagan's, right?
Yes.
How come you didn't show up last night for his going away party?
I didn't get the invite.
It was the longest. It was the longest celebration by the Vikings of some guy that they basically fired and made a consultant in. But it was a big ceremony. There was about 7 speeches beforehand, and then Bobby started talking. And you know Bobby, he's kind of a humble guy and everything.
Yep.
Hour and 10 minutes.
No.
Hour and 10 minutes. He finally said, I got one more story. I was the only guy in the room that applauded.
Wait a minute.
I would have, if it would have been me, I would have gone longer about me. So 110 is short.
Well,
Reusse.
it was mostly about other people, but an hour and 10. What?
So Bob's not dead. I was reading your tweets last night, and I thought, oh, my God, he passed away?
No. Well, he might have. He might have still be talking.
Jeez, I had him dead and gone, Pat.
No.
Golly, how embarrassing.
No, you didn't read it very closely. I said he went an hour and 10 minutes.
I must not have. I was sitting there bummed out.
He had seven people, like, tell him how great he was. Here's the problem.
How come I wasn't asked to speak? That's why I want to know.
I don't know. But Tommy West, you know, his right-hand man, was a quiet guy, was hilarious for 7-8 minutes. But he's the only guy that dinged him. You know?
Where was this event?
It was Bob Hagan's.
No, where was it?
It was out at Vikingville. And everybody was standing in this big room.
Jeez, I was
and
close.
I don't know what happened. And this isn't funny because I don't know how the guy came out. But late in Bobby's speech, somebody collapsed.
Oh.
And they ended up having to call an ambulance. I hope Bobby didn't kill him.
He collapsed out of boredom.
Yeah. Did Bob keep going?
I don't
Did he
know.
work through it?
It looked like it was serious. Well, he kind of wrapped it up a little sooner.
Okay.
But anyway, I hope.
Hell, I would have faked going down to get it wrapped up.
Just to get it. I don't know. The guy did.
He was way on the other side of the room, and I don't know what it was. But when we were leaving, we saw the ambulance coming.
Did he address the internship that he did have at Care 11 with?
Yes, he did.
With Paul Majors running in there, dropping a huge bomb, and then just running out of the sports office like nothing happened. That's what Majors was famous for.
Oh,
Ron.
No,
Paul.
No, Paul.
Yeah, he would. Hey guys, what's the score of the game? Wah! And then just walk out of there. And Shaver, U.S.
He and Blyleven should have been buddies. Herbie, that would have been a guy. He and Herbie could have had a contest. Hey, come on over here. Come on over here.
Yeah. I'll talk to you Monday, lad.
All righty. Go wild. Try to show us how good you are.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want me to hit this thing?
Yeah.
Hey, what's the score in here?
Thank you for that
Thanks,
update.
Paul.
The scramble going here?
Finally,
Just missed it.
today is Friday.
That close.
How did you miss that from a foot and a half away?
Because I couldn't see it. The
Well,
chair
you
was
threw
in
it
the way.
against the roof.
Rebound shot.
It's the
What do you call it?
Joe,
Bank shot.
you done your taxes yet?
No.
Have you booked your appointment yet? Kenny has. I'm about to. Keller Tax Services. Go with the best. Why wouldn't you? And a GLer. Linda Keller. She is the Keller of Keller Tax Services. Been at it for over 20 years. She's also perfected the virtual tax appointment. It's safe document exchange options, encrypted and secure. I've got a number of great emails from GLers who have made the switch to Linda, and you should too. So book your appointment today. She's filling up fast. She does evenings and weekends. So call 320-352-0013. 320-352-0013. Or just go to her website, kellertaxservice.com. Like I said, she does offer Saturday appointments, and those typically fill up fast. So call today to see if there is any availability. 320-352-0013, kellertaxservice.com. Please let her know that you heard about her service here on the Garage Logic podcast.
Rookie, what am I watching?
A guy that is a hunk of butter that is melted, spices, and he's cooking a huge, delicious steak, searing it properly.
Why would you watch such a thing?
Just to see how he's making it. Adding the right spices. That's on TikTok.
Oh, I don't do that.
Joe, yesterday I watched a video on how to rebuild a Bendix carburetor. That's what I watch. Food
Ribeye
videos.
and Hasselback potatoes.
Joel and crew, I'm a daily listener to the show, and in recent days I've heard you read emails from fellow Coloradans. I'm encouraged to hear of the seemingly growing presence of GLers in this regressive-filled state. Lord knows we need more common sense out here. More importantly, a few weeks back, you read emails from me on consecutive days regarding the shoot-down of the Chinese balloons and GL's link to that. I'm proud to announce those emails were heard by a fighter pilot who knows my son, also a fighter pilot, as referenced in those previous emails, and relayed that fact to him. The fighter pilot said he is a longtime GLer, as are many of his pilot friends. Woo! And finally, after hearing of the emails, I recently received a screenshot from my son's phone showing he now has GL in the library of podcasts he regularly listens to. It appears that GL is alive and well with a growing audience in both Colorado and the fighter pilot world. Congratulations, as always, trying to keep myself in the canoe and my face out of the mashed potatoes. CJ in Colorado
Nice.
Springs. We got fighter pilots that listen.
Let's go.
Only because they come to us
I wish
all
we knew
the
their
way
names.
from Crystal, Minnesota.
We need to find out their nicknames.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say like, hey,
Well, CJ, send me the nicknames.
Frisbee.
The
Blast
Lymans
the tower.
The Lymans are still in town.
No, what is it? Not blast the tower. What do you do? Go by the tower really fast.
Buzz the tower.
Buzz the tower. Buzz. Keep going there, Miko.
Jesus, wow. What day is it, Governor?
I don't know.
On this day in 1804,
March 10th.
10.
the upper Louisiana Territory, including present-day Minnesota west of the Mississippi, was formally transferred from France to the United States in a ceremony in St. Louis.
What year?
1804.
You suckers.
Jefferson
You suckers.
absolutely robbed Napoleon.
Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
On this day in
Bend
1850,
over and kiss it goodbye.
on this day in 1858,
March 10th.
inventor and businessman Marshall B. Lloyd was born in St. Paul. He would be involved in many ventures in Canada and the Dakotas before moving to Minneapolis in 1900.
I'm trying to think when you started.
Once there, he
Ribs.
invented machines to weave wire into doormats, and later the woven wire bed spring mattress. Head of the Lloyd Manufacturing Company, he would then move to Menominee, Michigan, and invent a wicker weaving machine that was 30 times faster than hand weaving.
So he made some cash.
And don't tell me this isn't a great country.
And his competitors say, if you ever get annoyed, you can beat up Mr. Lloyd. Mrs. Lloyd was our principal at Maddox School when we were in kindergarten. And we would say, if you ever get annoyed, you can beat up Mrs. Lloyd.
You know, that school is torn down.
That's a good
It is torn
story.
down.
Park there.
And again, my kindergartner teacher, Mrs. Tilsner, who we had on the air a long time ago, wife of the Tilsner Corporation off of 35E, remembered me from kindergarten.
God.
Isn't that great?
You remember how we
I
always
hope she's
make
still
the
around.
analogy
If the
that
Tilsner family would let me know. Rookie at GarageLogic.com.
episode of GL was like the wobbly plane taking off. This one's been more like the wobbly plane coming to a crash land.
It looks like we got a little too much cargo in the back there.
On this day, in 1983,
What happened? This year I graduated from grade school.
Mickey's Diner in St. Paul, built in 1939, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
And now the bleeping bleepers in St. Paul that would not grandfather in Mickey's Diner because I don't want to get into ADA issues, but that's why it's closed right now.
I didn't know it was closed.
It's closed. They couldn't
Both
accommodate.
locations?
No, the one
Would they
on,
need a ramp or something?
the one on West 7th down further is still open. It's open 24/7. It's fabulous. But
You have eaten there?
oh yeah, on Sunday mornings with the whole entire family. Are you kidding me?
Joe,
It is. My kids would request that.
Okay.
But anyway, so the dining car.
so the original isn't open on.
Because the
During the hockey
inspectors couldn't, they wouldn't grandfather in Mickey's Diner.
Well, can't somebody throw up a ramp?
What do we need? A ramp?
I think more than that, the facilities probably don't accommodate. It's a tough situation because if I'm in a wheelchair, I want to be able to go to Mickey's Diner. Yes, I understand
Well,
that. However,
I got news for those
What
people.
about a roll-up window?
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry you're eating outside. It's 40 below. Those fries are a little chilly, but you're here.
But it's not as
I'll
if
get you an umbrella, okay?
it's not as if they can add on.
We'll try to shovel that snow for you out there as well. I saw you struggling to get in.
Hey, you need a hat, Baldy?
Well, now I'm having cartoon bubbles of people falling down. And
Yes, and it is a tough situation, but I wish there was a way they could have grandfathered. You can, if you are ADA accessible, you can go down the street to the other Mickey's Diner.
We'll roll you on down.
We'll give you a push.
I mean, that's a
20
long
blocks
way.
down.
Fred.
Well, I know, but it's not like you.
What, are you gonna hobble down
No,
there?
they would drive and
Just hang on to my bumper.
Right, I got it.
We'll be there in a minute.
How's
Give me
that
a
Toro?
push.
Give me a push. Don't let that Toro get any slack, okay? And you got good brakes because they're coming up to a red light.
Kenny, lift the tailgate open. We'll just throw him in the back. We're all going to hell.
No, we're not.
No, we are going.
It's a
Well, it's
sad day.
Kenny's idea to help him.
Roll up.
A roll through.
Well, you know what? To be honest, it
That
might
guy wouldn't be high enough. He'd be looking
No, he'd be
down.
down.
it might be safer for
I
him
dropped
to,
a pancake.
Throwing
Sorry.
the change out.
it might be safer for him to wheel down the sidewalk as opposed to taking the pothole infested street.
That's true. That's
You
very
know?
true.
It's
But
probably
that's-
safer.
I'm going to say something about the pothole.
Oh boy.
They're terrible.
Oh,
But we do get them every year. This isn't new.
No, you're correct, but the potholes are more visible as a result of the poor
Street maintenance.
plowing that we had, which again, it's an example of they hit slush, they freeze. Once they freeze,
We all
they're
know
not,
how it forms. I'm just merely suggesting
Listen,
Joe.
that there's nothing new about this.
listen to this from the Tom Bernard Show today on The Family. I think that's his family podcast.
Yeah.
Did you know in San Rafael, Argentina, they have jobs specifically to fill potholes with fire so you know what part of the road to avoid at night?
Wow.
How
What
soon?
a great idea.
How soon is that coming to St. Paul?
Because night, I don't even want to drive at night. You can't see it.
Yeah, and you got to maintain your distance to see. All I do is
Oh,
watch
it's
the
terrible.
road. All I
yeah.
do.
I,
Oh, it's
Does Tommy do 2 podcasts?
Yes.
Tom is like you, man. He's got to work. He's got to
workaholic.
work. Yep.
Jeez
Gotta work.
Louise. If I had his money, I wouldn't be doing 2 podcasts.
You probably do.
And I don't.
you'd be doing 2 podcasts if you had what I had.
What do you got?
About $6.
Yeah, I don't have his 2 podcasts, and I don't work as hard as he does.
Yeah.
No, you've got the family podcast.
Yeah, we're kind of.
Is that on hiatus?
It's on hiatus. We couldn't get everybody together. It's just
Tough to get guests.
It's tough to ring it up, isn't it?
it's tough to ring her up. Yeah, you bet.
That free labor. They're
Oh, what day is it? It's the 10th. It's too bad we don't do birthdays because I would wish my buddy Tyler Anderson, owner of Anderson Electric, a happy birthday. But
Too bad.
Too bad,
Sorry,
Ty.
Tyler.
Does he advertise with us?
He does now.
59, 60.
I'm glad we don't do birthdays because I would wish my sister-in-law Laura a happy birthday. So I'm not going to.
How about
Tell Laura I love her.
She hates that
the
song.
birthday
Tell
shout-out
Laura
podcast?
I need her.
That one and think of Laura, but laugh. Mick said at Laura's funeral she's going to play that.
The coolest thing I ever saw. I'm a little kid. I'm sitting in the caboose. Matamidi was so charming that we had a caboose.
I love that.
As the warming house.
That's totally cool.
And Ray Rowling, who played the major league, sat there by the stove.
Yep.
And taught you how to lace your skates. But one time, a senior who played for Matamidi came in,
Yep.
sat down, and everybody knew who he was. And he looked at a kid sitting on a bench and said, "You got a sister named Laura?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Tell Laura I love her." I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
He hit the post on that too.
Have a good weekend, GLers.
Yeah.
Yeah, podmngaragelogic.com.